This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Government being pressed to consider compensation plan for people who might have adverse reactions to COVID-19 vaccine. The government is being urged to put the matter of compensation for vaccine injury on the table alongside any discussion or move towards a COVID-19 vaccination mandate. Vincent Morrison, president of the Union of Clerical Administrative and Supervisory Employees, and Carla Golota, head of Stand Up Jamaica, made the recommendation against the background of indications that the matter of mandatory vaccination in Jamaica could be brought to the fore shortly. While the manufacturers have been indemnified against the vaccine injury claims, the government has not yet set up a formal compensation mechanism. While the manufacturers have been indemnified against the vaccine injury claims, the government has not yet set up a formal compensation mechanism for its national vaccination program, which means anyone who has a claim must go through the courts. Golota and Morrison say that in-depth and meaningful dialogue needs to be had with all stakeholders alongside an extensive public education campaign about vaccination before any move to mandatory vaccination is contemplated. I am totally in favor of the vaccine, but I am very reluctant on forcing people who don't want to do it. I think there should be dialogue. There should be a huge campaign showing examples of what has happened in other countries with vaccination, Golota said as she pointed to the more than 80% vaccination rate in Italy, one of the countries hardest hit by the pandemic and which has now been able to return to normality. At the same time, Golota said compensation for those who may need it post-vaccination has to be a part of the discussions. You cannot say that take it and then you are not responsible for that. I think some form of assistance should be set in place, declared Golota. In February, the World Health Organization and the Chubb Limited inked an agreement on behalf of the COVAX facility for the administration of no-fault compensation program. It is the first international vaccine injury compensation mechanism offering eligible individuals in these countries an avenue to receive compensation for rare but serious adverse conditions associated with COVAX distributed vaccines. This is expected to reduce the need for persons to go the lengthy and costly route of seeking recourse through the courts. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has said that a vaccination mandate could become unavoidable when a larger segment of the population becomes inoculated and pushback still exists against being subjected to movement restrictions because some people refuse to take the vaccines. At this stage, the government is not considering implementing mandatory vaccination. However, probably it will emerge in the near future, Holness said during a recent vaccination blitz in Trelawney. In the meantime, Morrison stressed the need for a stakeholders consultation instead of what he termed is a bits and pieces approach. According to Morrison, all the issues around the vaccination should be aired and ironed out, including compensation for vaccination injury. There are some who don't want to take it, but later they might see the need for it. I know for a fact that even those people who don't want to take the vaccine, they want to see the COVID-19 problem solved. They may have personal situation, and I don't think the vaccine should be mandatory. It should be left to the choice of those who don't want to take it, said Morrison. He argued that some employers may be using the COVID-19 situation as a panacea for workplace safety, pointing to the languishing of the Occupational Safety and Health Act for the past 3 decades and the little care for workplace safety by many entities. The government has set a target of administering 1 million doses of vaccines by November 30, with 1.9 million jabs to be administered by March 2022. Sexual harassment training for managers. Managers and other senior officials across the island are being targeted for a gender relations training session scheduled for November 4. The training is being provided in an effort to increase knowledge of sexual harassment, among other things, and to provide guidance on how these issues should be addressed in the workplace. The seminar is being organized by the Global Services Association of Jamaica in collaboration with the Inter-American Development Bank and Compete Caribbean. It will be delivered by the Management Institute for National Development, MIND, and comes against the background of the recent parliamentary approval of the Sexual Harassment Act 2021. When implemented, the legislation will require employers to ensure that their workers are informed of its varying clauses. The Act contains provisions for dealing with sexual harassment in the workplace, schools, correctional institutions, places of safety, nursing homes, medical and psychiatric facilities, among other places. Sexual harassment involves someone making any sexual advance towards a person that is regarded as offensive or humiliating by the person towards whom it is made, or which has the effect of interfering with the work performance of the person to whom the advance is made, or creating an intimidating, offensive, or hostile working environment. It covers any form of conduct or behavior that could be a demand or request for sex or favors of sexual nature, the making of sexual suggestions, remarks or innuendos, the showing of pornography, or display of images or objects of sexual nature, any other physical gesture, verbal, non-verbal, or visual conduct of a sexual nature. MIND will design, develop, and deliver the training sensitization intervention in aspects of gender relations. There will also be a self-paced learning course in January 2022. The GSAJ, which represents players in the business process outsourcing sector, is one of Jamaica's largest providers of employment. There are more than 44,000 people working in the industry, which is poised for further expansion. The advocacy group was founded in 2012 and is focused on growing and diversifying Jamaica's global services industry while attracting and supporting companies in the industry as they create jobs across the country. The GSAJ developed the training program to deal with sexual harassment and gender discrimination in the workplace based on gaps that were identified in a 2020 gender assessment survey that it had commissioned. Through the November 4 seminar, the GSAJ hopes to raise the level of knowledge and awareness of sexual harassment so that workplace conduct is in line with acceptable benchmark standards. The association decided to open the seminar to all managers as part of its contribution to stemming sexual harassment in Jamaica. Consumption taxes for September due Friday. The Tax Administration Jamaica is reminding business persons that consumption taxes for September are due on Friday, October 29. These include general consumption tax, special consumption tax, telephone call tax, and the guest accommodation room tax. This is in keeping with the requirement for taxpayers to make their monthly consumption tax returns and the payments on the last working day of the month after the end of the taxable period. Consumption taxes filed and paid after the last working day of the month will therefore be considered late, and the necessary penalties and interest charges will be applied. Taxpayers are reminded that they have several online payment options via www.jamaicatax.gov.jm using a valid credit card or other payment products with credit card features such as a Visa debit card. Scotiabank customers are also able to use Scotiabank's electronic fund transfer via the TAJ's website, which allows users to make payment from their bank account directly to TAJ's bank account up to a maximum of Jamaican $99.9 million. Customers from the National Commercial Bank will also be able to use their online platform by adding TAJ as a payee. TAJ has also sought to remind the business persons that they can still get support to file GCT returns online, as well as guidance to use any of the alternative payment channels through its customer care center or by visiting the How to tab on the TAJ website at www.jamaicatax.gov.jm. Government MPs circle wagons as opposition questions paid to former Education Minister. Government members of Parliament closed the ranks yesterday to prevent Education Minister Favour Williams from giving definitive answers to whether disgraced former Education Minister and the Principal of Jamaica College, Ruel Reid, will be allowed to continue on paid special leave when his current leave period expires on November 20 this year. The questions were brought to the House of Representatives by St. Andrew Southeastern MP Julian Robinson a month ago. Williams insisted that the board of Jamaica College had not made a recommendation regarding Reed's leave, but she did not make clear if such an application would be granted. The government has been paying over $11 million in gross salaries and benefits to Reed and the acting principal of J.C. Wayne Robinson, combined inclusive of motor vehicle upkeep of $74,577 each and housing allowance of $35,481 each. In March 2019, the board of JC recommended and received approval from the ministry special leave with full salary for the embattled principal from March 8 to 24, earned vacation leave with full salary from March 25 to November 2019, and a special leave with full salary from November 21, 2019 to November 20, 2021. Reed remains before the court, having been arrested in October 2019 on charges of defrauding the Ministry of Education and the Caribbean Maritime University of millions of dollars. He was expelled from the Adjoholness cabinet in March 2019. The JC board had released him on secondment in March 2016 to serve as minister for an initial period of 2 years. Asked whether Reed would be allowed to continue on paid leave indefinitely, Williams in monotones repeatedly quoted from the 1965 Education Act and its 1980 regulations. The minister was directed by Deputy House Speaker Juliet Holness not to respond to questions from MP for St. Catherine Southern, Fitz-Jackson, and others as to whether her ministry would approve more paid leave for Reed if the JC board makes an application. This after Justice Minister Delroy Chuck insisted that the questions were speculative and misleading and were in breach of the House standing orders. He insisted that the Speaker should direct the minister not to respond. The opposition members persisted. Jackson criticized the justification for continuing to keep Reed on paid leave, given that his post was essentially being filled by Robinson, who is performing the full duties as principal. St. and Southeastern MP Lisa Hanna pointed to situations in which police officers are interdicted and sent on unpaid leave while matters they were involved in are investigated. But Williams told the House that such matters are not provided for in laws governing the education sector. In the Act and in the regulations, there is not the concept of interdiction as you would find it in public service, she said, reading from the regulations in response to a volley of questions from members of the opposition who demanded to know if there is a cutoff time for unpaid leave for teachers in the public sector. A teacher in a public educational institution may be allowed special leave with or without pay, as the minister may approve, on the recommendation of the board, to enable the teacher to be absent for such other reasons as the minister may approve, she quoted. Williams pointed out that boards are vested with the power to appoint, terminate, promote, and suspend from duty members of staff of public education institutions. She also did not explain what the guiding principles are for any decision to allow Reed to continue on paid special leave after November 20, 2021. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.